Well, look who's here a week early. What, you're not going to say anything?
I'm here.
We're a week early. Normally we run this show once a fortnight, but a lot has happened over the past few days that I believe justified a podcast. So I asked Zach on Friday, hey, you okay with filming a podcast on Monday? And he said yes.
Here I am.
So we are here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Many thanks.
And look, let's get straight into it. We have two major topics today. First, and I'm doing them in chronological order, even though I believe one of them is a lot more serious than the other. First is the out of the blue Jamaica Premiere appearance by the cosplaying royals. And secondly, I'm sure a lot of you already know what I'm going to say, the African Parks scandal. All right, starting off with the Jamaica Premiere. I remember the first thought that crossed my mind. For those of you who don't know, I guess I should set the context. So there was a Bob Marley One Love movie premiere in Jamaica last week. And look, by Hollywood standards, it was a small premiere. But for some reason, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry decided to show up. And the first thing I thought was, it's award season in Hollywood right now. Everyone's on, the Golden Globes, the Tonys, the Emmys, I don't know. The Oscars are coming up, the Grammys, whatever. And Meghan and Harry, despite considering themselves, at least Meghan, as an executive producer and, a Hollywood power player, a variety woman of power, honoree or whatever, from 2022, to be fair, not from this year, even though that's when she attended. This is the one where she was on the black carpet and she just would not get off.
Yeah.
She fired that, I shouldn't say she fired, but that employee who was trying to get her off the carpet is no longer working for her.
Yeah, I think we can all, read between the lines there. Yeah.
So despite her kid being sick, remember I mentioned that last podcast? And look, I said I'm not cynical. It was cynical to think she was faking the illness to compete with Catherine, but I didn't mean that I believe her kid is 100% sick. I think really, and I didn't really have enough time to say this last week, I believe that what happened is she knew that the event was a joke, the Legend of Aviation Awards.
Yep.
Everyone was making fun of it, and she is obsessed with the internet. We know that. She stalks her own name and everything up to do with her, and she knew that it would be, an embarrassment to go there. So she didn't go, and she most likely used her kid as an excuse. Whether the kid was sick or not, obviously no one has any proof, of that.
Yep.
But yeah, it's funny because I thought your kid was sick, and I guess they made a speedy recovery because lo and behold, a few days later, she's in a different country.
Yeah, how convenient, I mean, it's the first time that I think she's used the kids as an excuse, is it? Or has she done this before?
No, she did it before. If you remember Invictus, she was like, I had to buy the kids milkshakes.
Yes, but that wasn't, a potentially not so real illness that the kids were suffering from. So
yeah, milkshakes. Yeah, right. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that woman didn't know the names of her own kids, to be honest. But
yeah, it gets a bit like that. I mean, just because you give birth to something doesn't mean you love it. So
unfortunately. So yeah, they had to go all the way. Those eco warriors from Hollywood, they live 2 hours away from Hollywood, to Jamaica on a private jet just to go to this, no offense to the movie or to Jamaicans, of course, but very small movie premiere.
Not the big fish that Meghan seems to want to fry.
Exactly. And yet there she was. And yes, I have to agree with everyone. I'm not sure if you saw, and you're a guy, you don't care, but she was absolutely overdressed. Huge, really long black skirt, and it looked like a ball gown, and apparently she was wearing flats, so it was really, really long, and she had to pick it up. And then there's this video of them being shown to their seats in the cinema theater, and it was a very average, very normal cinema theater. And so you really see how overdressed she was, because she's trying to shove her skirt into the seat. And they didn't look happy about sitting there, by the way.
Yeah, they probably wanted front row seats, which, if she knew anything about cinema, she wouldn't. She's a pretend actress. So she would know that the front of the cinema are the worst seats, and she probably shouldn't want to sit there if she actually wants to see the movie. But let's be honest, she's never there for anything else but herself. She wasn't there for the movie, for the cause, for anything, just because she thought she could get some airtime.
The VIPs were sitting, I think, towards the back. So they were in the middle. Meghan and Harry were in the middle. And then behind them, you can see a row where there's like water placed in the seat, in the cup holders. Meghan and Harry weren't in those seats, by the way.
Right.
So it signifies that that's perhaps where the VIPs were sitting. But yeah, speaking of VIPs, they were posing on the red carpet with two notable people. First, the head of Paramount, or a Paramount high-ranking executive, and the first thing I thought was, oh, do we have ourselves another Lion King situation, Lion King Premiere situation, where Harry's offering his wife services to Bob Iger?
Yeah.
Is that what's going on here? Is that why they flew all the way from Montecito to go and meet up with these Paramount powerhouses, which, by the way, Paramount is not doing well.
No, I mean, I could struggle to think of a streaming service that is doing well in today's modern age, but Paramount's certainly doing most poorly compared to the big wigs. Like, I don't know, their I want to say employer, Netflix?
Not X.
Not X yet?
No, not yet. Their contract expires next year. Although people do say that Meghan, in her never-ending vindictiveness, decided to pose with these Paramount executives as an FU to Netflix for laughing at the Golden Globes joke at their expense.
Yeah, and there's the other thing of, I don't know, nothing has been produced since the absolutely abysmal 6-part series that you reviewed way back.
There was The Heart of Invictus.
Yeah.
I know you didn't watch that, but that was unfortunately a flop. Yes.
And that wasn't a Meghan-centric focused thing as well. That wasn't like, oh, look at us. We were part of the royal family and we screwed it up.
Oh, did they screw it up? My goodness. It really is apparent when they were being shoved into those cinema seats. Just,
yeah.
I mean, there were people there dressed in jeans and a t-shirt.
Yeah, it's a movie premiere where they dim the lights and you watch the movie. Is she one of the people who talks during the movie because she needs the attention to be on her? Because, I mean, that's just like, we already thought poorly of her.
It's a very small movie premiere. I mean, movie premieres can be glitzy, but that's what Hollywood is for primarily. I'm sure Bollywood also has amazing premiere setup. But this was a very small affair. There are barely any photos from the event. That's how small it was.
Yeah.
And nothing wrong with dressing up for a premiere, don't get me wrong, but maybe something a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more understated given the size of the event and given that you have nothing to do with the event.
Yeah, you just happen to be there because you married a prince, because you're Harry's wife. And if you weren't Harry's wife, you wouldn't be there. So
even Harry himself, why is he there? He actually said, I had to be here. Why? You're not signed up to Paramount. You're not promoting. You have no promoting obligations with Paramount. In fact, we never see them on the red carpet of any Netflix releases. Like the last season of The Crown recently had, a big red carpet event.
Yeah.
Meghan and Harry were nowhere to be seen.
Yeah. This is a strange phenomena about movie premieres where people rock up that had nothing to do with the production. It's very odd.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense to me.
It is bizarre. Another person that Meghan and Harry posed with. Now, this one really ruffled some feathers, especially back in the UK. The Prime Minister, Andrew Holness. Now, 2 years ago, we actually covered on our podcast Catherine and William's tour of the Caribbean, I believe it was.
Yes,
and
I remember that.
Yeah, and they did go to Jamaica, and it was, I'm not going to rehash what happened in detail because we already covered it, but basically that Prime Minister announced completely by surprise, you can see that Catherine and William were taken by surprise, that Jamaica no longer wanted to be attached to the monarchy, and they wanted to, become not necessarily independent of the Commonwealth, but remove the monarch as head of their country.
Which is a little bit awkward.
It was very awkward because it was completely unplanned, and also because presumably they were invited to come to Jamaica.
Yeah.
So you wanted the royals there, and why would you blindside them like that? Quite frankly, embarrass them like that in front of the entire world. You can see how awkward William and Catherine were, their body language. So after doing that, Meghan and Harry decide to pose with him. And people are saying that's a big, as Harry will forever be the son of the king and forever be a prince, I suppose, of the blood. It was done in poor taste that they stood there and posed with someone who is quite keen, apparently, to get rid of the monarchy.
I mean, here's the thing. Meghan and Harry doing things in poor taste. I mean, the sun rises and sets. You know what I mean? They don't do things in good taste ever.
And they don't do things innocently ever. No. I do believe this was done intentionally. I do believe this was their way of saying, look at us, we're the royals that they love, except, I'm sorry, you're not royals, you're cosplaying royals at this point.
What is he, a parent that they're like, having sibling rivalry over? Like, what the hell is this?
That's how childish they are.
Yeah.
I truly think that's what they were doing. I mean, call me cynical, maybe I'm the cynic this week, but I even think Meghan did this to show off to Catherine and say, haha, you're in bed in a hospital while I'm still 100% healthy and posing on this carpet, being all glammed up.
Which anyone with a head on their shoulders would probably think to themselves, I don't think Catherine wants to go to Jamaica again. Why would she want to go there after the embarrassment last time? So why would that be like, it just doesn't make any sense, but it's so Meghan. It's something that she would think to herself because this is the sort of behavior she's done before.
Look, even if Catherine wanted to go back for, I'm sure it's a beautiful country. Meghan got married there, her first husband. She married in Jamaica. Nothing against Jamaica, by the way. If you want to be independent, I'm not British. We're part of the Commonwealth. But my issue is with the way he handled it, the prime minister.
Absolutely.
Not their intentions, by all means. But the way he handled it was off. And Catherine doesn't need to go to Jamaica. And again, no offense to Jamaica, for a small movie premiere. She's there at the world's biggest premieres, with Tom Cruise holding her hand and escorting her up a flight of stairs. Catherine doesn't need it. That's what I mean. It's petty games. But again, this is just my opinion. I'm being cynical. I'm not saying this is why Meghan did it.
But it totally is one of those things that she would sink that low. She would absolutely think that to herself. And so I don't think you're far-fetched by, again, based on the many years of Meghan doing things that are extremely childish and don't make any sense to anyone.
Yep. So another thing that is connected, to this Andrew Holness photo is people are calling this a diplomatic incident in the sense that Meghan and Harry, especially Harry, again, still attached to the royal family by blood, shouldn't be seen fraternizing, posing, befriending, being friendly with this anti-monarchist prime minister, and that they are going to destroy and undermine the Commonwealth. There was this article on this publication called The Hill, which has been doing the rounds, where the two authors of the article were very, very politically switched on. I believe one of them was an intelligence officer. And they wrote an article about how Meghan and Harry are endangering the Commonwealth, basically. I have to say, and I've said this even 2 years ago, because this came up 2 years ago during this tour of Catherine and Williams. The same rhetoric came up, which is Meghan and Harry are a danger to the Commonwealth. And I said this, and I haven't changed my mind in 2 years. I don't think that they have enough credibility. Like, I think we're giving them too much credit. When we say that they are a danger to the Commonwealth, they're a joke. They call the Commonwealth the Empire 2.0 on their Netflix series. And it did nothing. If anything, it made people appreciate the royal family and the monarchy more. Because it shines a light on them, and you kind of, people like me who were not interested in the royal family before suddenly became interested because of Meghan Markle. So thanks, Meghan.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Obviously, I knew very little about the royal family from when I was in school, but now I feel like, I know the name of all, these princes and the king and queen, and how I know a lot about how royalty works now. And not just that, but it's interesting getting into their head, the thinking all right, so what is King Charles thinking about this? How is he going to handle this? Looking at William and Catherine, the future king and queen. They have really taught me about how a monarchy can actually be useful in today's modern age. And how, especially when it comes to, it's the heart and soul of the UK, some would even say, their entire country is built on that. So they've done the opposite. People like me, and I'm sure there's many other people out there would think, instead of being indifferent, they go, you know what? Hey, monarchy, not the worst thing in the world. Harry and Meghan, yeah, they're pretty bad.
Yeah. There was a lot of misinformation or disinformation, like on purpose, surrounding Catherine and William's tour because, certain people like Omid Scobie and the Sussex Squad were making it seem like Jamaica didn't want William and Catherine. And, they really brought up these themes of colonialism and all that. When in reality, it was actually a successful tour, apart from a few awkward hiccups.
Yeah.
And people showed up in droves to see William and Catherine.
Mm-hmm.
There were protesters, but guess what? When Harry visited, in 2011, 2012, I believe, and he went to Jamaica, there were protesters with signs up saying, "Not my prince."
Yeah. It's almost like there are protesters at almost every event. In fact, I have been around many events that have had protesters. It's almost like a given when you have government events, when you have royal events. Having protesters there is just part and parcel. It's part of the gig.
Yeah, it's not a bad reflection on William and Catherine.
Yes.
Because right now what Meghan and Harry are trying to do, I think, with posing with Andrew Holness is, look, we're the popular, loved royals in Jamaica, not William and Catherine, when William and Catherine were, again, as I said, a success, aside from a few hiccups. And also, the way that some photos were misinterpreted from that tour. I remember we covered this. I'm not going to go into it in detail. But they made it look like William and Catherine were, greeting people through a fence because it's us versus them, racism.
Yep.
When actually they were in a football stadium, a football pitch, and they needed the fence to stop the ball from getting onto the road.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. That all happened 2 years ago, and I don't think it worked. I think the mainstream media made it look like it worked.
They will twist a lot of things.
Yeah.
They are the lesser of two evils when it comes to misinformation compared to Harry and Meghan, but they will twist a lot of things. I just don't think Meghan and Harry are important enough for anyone to protest against. I mean, what are they protesting against? Stop embarrassing yourself. Like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. And they also showed up unannounced. So people, those tours are announced beforehand and people have time to organize their protests.
Yeah.
But this time, no one knew Meghan and Harry were going to show up because they're nobodies.
Yeah, they could have planned it, weeks in advance, and there still would have been anyone turning up because it's like, you're pretend royals, Yeah. Harry is a royal by blood and pretty much nothing else.
Yep, absolutely. To finish off this segment, the optics. I made a whole video talking about poor optics a few months ago. And it looks like I'm going to have to make a part 2 and a part 3 and a part 4 and probably a part 56 by the time I'm an old lady, because the poor optics are never ending with these two.
Nope, absolutely not.
Whatever their motivations were, whether they actually intended on destroying or intend to destroy the Commonwealth, which yes, I believe they intend to.
Absolutely.
But I just don't believe they have the capacity to.
No, if anyone was going to do it, they'd be the bottom of the list.
So, I'm not saying that's not their intention. Whatever their intentions are, whether it's to get a Paramount deal or to put up the middle finger to Netflix, or to just show up and feel important, feel like she's on a red carpet because no one else invites her in Hollywood.
Yep.
Regardless of what the intentions are, they looked bad.
Yes.
It was just poor optics.
As it always is with them.
Moving on to a much more serious topic with what time we have left. The African Parks scandal. Now, this is the first time, honestly, that I was aware that Harry was involved with African Parks, which is basically a conservation charity. And Prince Harry was president for 6 years. And then recently, I believe in October 2023, he was elevated or appointed to, the board. And it turns out, according to an exclusive investigation by the Mail on Sunday, I'm not going to go into detail. Unfortunately, I do not want this video to be demonetized. This charity has rangers employed. And according to this investigation, these rangers, not all of them, some of them, have engaged in horrific crimes of a violent and sexual nature against indigenous tribes people. And this is all in the rainforests of the Republic of Congo. Okay? Now, of course, these people are acting off their own accord. We're not saying Prince Harry is responsible for what they've done. However, there has been a lot of troubling information that could prove that Harry was aware of these atrocities for a long time.
My goodness.
And if this is true, he didn't do anything about it.
Mr. Humanitarian, Mr. Making the world a better place, but really Mr. I only care about myself. That's more evident here than any time before. How is it that he can even pretend anymore? Because if what the Daily Mail is saying is true, then this flies in the face of all of that. If he's willing to let people get hurt because he's either too lazy or too ignorant to do his job, and here's the thing, president, CEO, board member, whatever position you hold in this sort of conservation effort, right? Those people you're responsible for, just like a company or a corporation, you know, making sure their employees don't get up to anything. This is, if you are aware of this and if you were aware of this and outside of the company, you would do something about it, you know, let alone being in the company and having power.
Yep.
Harry, where were you?
And it gets worse. There is a human rights organization by the name of Survival International, and they have been the ones sounding the alarm alongside, well, the Daily Mail has just done it now.
Yeah.
But these people, this organization has been sounding the alarm for over a decade. Now they've been tweeting, and this is very recent, the 28th of January. They said, Survival first spoke to African parks about their park rangers violently abusing Baka indigenous people more than 10 years ago. And it is likely they've known about it for even longer. They're not doing nothing for lack of information. After today's shocking revelations, we're calling on Prince Harry to step down from the board of African parks with immediate effect, and for its funders to withdraw their support. African Parks has known about these abuses for years. Now, of course, African Parks has released a statement denying that they've known, and they say that they have a zero tolerance policy for any form of abuse, and they are committed to upholding the rights of local and indigenous people. They are currently thoroughly investigating the allegations, and they became aware only last year via a board member who received a letter from Survival International. Now, they even went on to say that apparently Survival International are not cooperating despite repeated requests for more information. Now, of course, that's a he said, she said at this point. I don't believe that Survival International is not cooperating, because clearly, I mean, we even have here the letter, well, not really the letter, excerpts from the letter that was sent. And the scary thing is, it appears to be that the letter was sent to Meghan and Harry.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh, hold on a second. This is an issue that doesn't involve Meghan. She can't walk down a red carpet here, or a black carpet, or whatever color carpet you want to make it. This isn't something she can dress up to, so of course she would sweep it under the rug. This is extremely damning on both of them.
Well, yeah, because for now we've just been hearing a letter, and then you have this proof dated 31st of May. You know, if anyone's listening, it's on the screen right now. 2023, Dear Duke and Duchess of Sussex, in light of the Duke's role as president of African Parks and your shared commitment to oppose racism and injustice, I am writing to alert you to appalling human rights abuses being committed by African Parks rangers against Baka indigenous hunter-gatherer people in the Republic of Congo. Many Baka people have personally told me how African Park rangers have evicted them from their land, forcing them into starvation and torturing them. They described to me abuse by rangers, including, and they go on to describe some very horrific things, which I will have to blur out, unfortunately, just because YouTube doesn't believe that we should be airing out this information. You know?
YouTube's a bit shy of the truth.
Yeah, I mean, we creators have to suffer and not get paid for our hard work simply because we're bringing attention to disgusting human rights abuses. Good job.
Excellent.
Good job.
Well done, YouTube. Yes.
Good job. Proud partner here. So this is really bad. And of course, as you can see, this is very serious.
Yeah, just reading this, so when the South Park episode happened, that was a turning point for Harry and Meghan. That was a place where even people who didn't care hopped on board and went, wow, these people are disgusting humans. And up until this point, a lot of what she's done has been harmless and frivolous, and it's not to say she hasn't done harm. Obviously, she's said horrendous things. But in comparison to this, I think it's time for them to leave the world stage. You know,
Yes.
They won't, because Meghan's ego is bigger than the freaking sun, but this has to be another turning point. If they were aware of this and did nothing even a year ago, how do you even, oh my goodness. If someone came to me with these allegations, or someone showed me this, even if I didn't believe it was true, I would put an investigation in and find out for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And most importantly, they can never call themselves humanitarians ever again. Every time I hear someone refer to them as a humanitarian, or they refer to themselves, I'm going to remember that description that I just read.
Yep.
I'm going to remember that, because they've been liars and hypocrites before, but this is another level.
Now, Prince Harry did respond. And he says that actually Archewell responded, not Harry directly, because he's too important apparently to release a statement directly to the world. This is a very serious issue, and I think it warrants a direct statement. They've done it before.
Yep.
His foundation, Archewell, told the Mail on Sunday, when the Duke became aware of these serious allegations, he immediately escalated them to the CEO and chairman of the board of African Parks, the appropriate people to handle next steps.
Yeah. Pass off the responsibility, because being a prince and being as a part of this organization, you just go, oh, the CEO will do it.
The problem is, Harry, you're the one with the platform.
Yep.
You're Prince Harry. In fact, thank God he's a board member, because otherwise, I shudder to think how this would have been covered up.
Yep.
You know, Survival International may have been screaming out into the abyss about this, and no one would have even known or cared, because there wasn't a famous name attached to African Parks.
Unfortunately, that's just how it is with these sorts of media corporations.
Exactly. And he talks about how he wants his life mission to be fighting misinformation, and you're a humanitarian and eco-warrior while you fly private jets to Jamaica, when there are indigenous people, allegedly, I have to say at this point, suffering such horrific crimes. Now, Harry joined this organization in 2016. That's 8 years ago. That's a very long time. And if Survival International are to be believed, with them sounding the alarm for over 10 years now, Harry falls well within that time bracket.
Absolutely.
And yes, you can argue, oh, he's oblivious. He's just a name tacked on, like Better Up, you know? Well, then he's not a real humanitarian. Get off the board if you're useless.
Yep. I am sick of board members being a part of companies, corporations, and industries that they have no business being a part of. I'm sick of people who want to make money sitting on boards and they don't even know what their company makes. So, Harry, if you care about being humanitarian, you're on that board because you want to do something. You had the opportunity to do something. You didn't do something. Get off the board and just be quiet, because every word coming out of your mouth now that isn't, I have dealt with this situation, every other word, every other excuse is absolute poison.
You know, according to Survival International, the CEO and everyone else was apparently aware for 10 years and they didn't do anything. So why are you escalating it to people who clearly don't want to do anything? Again, assuming that Survival International is being honest, because I don't have proof either way. I will say one really damning thing is this letter. Look at this timeline. This letter was sent May 2023, as we saw, to Meghan and Harry. In June, a month later, Harry's PR team, or Meghan and Harry's PR team, leaked that Harry is considering making a documentary in Africa on African parks. So either he never got the letter and he was still in the dark, or he got the letter, was aware of these very serious allegations and called for help, and decided to ignore it and promote a potential documentary on the very organization that is being accused of these heinous crimes. And to make things worse, again, assuming my information is correct, Harry accepts his board position on October 2023. Again, after receiving this letter. But we're not hearing that Harry never received the letter. We're hearing that he said, as soon as I found out, I escalated it. Maybe he did that June last year.
I'm hearing that a board member didn't want to do his job if he didn't get this letter. So either he got the letter.
Well, he became a board member after getting the letter, though. But he was president.
President. So I'm hearing that a president then turned board member didn't want him to do his job. So either he got the letter, didn't do anything about it, or claims he just passed the buck, or he didn't get the letter, but it's his responsibility to review communications sent to him as part of being president and board member, or have someone else do it, such as a secretary. Yeah. So communications should not fall on deaf ears, even if it's just spam mail. Absolutely. Someone has to look through it. If they're too important to do it, sure, get someone else to do it. But if you were just going to be like, I'm a board member, or I'm a president, or I'm a CEO, and I'm not going to look at my emails, that's negligence.
It really is, actually. You're right. And I find it funny how Harry releases a statement through Archwell only now that the Daily Mail released the investigation, and not any time before between May last year and now. So only when it's put in the public domain, he responds and goes, oh yeah, I pushed it up to the CEO.
Yeah. No.
Harry, resign.
Yep.
Just do the right thing for once in your damn life. Do the right thing. And I do want to stress that this is still on the investigation level, right? Nothing's been proven. Unfortunately, that's how the world works. You know, you do have to go off evidence. But it seems to be a very credible case. The indigenous people of Congo have no reason to make this up.
Yep.
It doesn't make sense that any of this would be made up, especially since it's been over a decade. So you can't say, oh, people just want to tarnish Prince Harry because of Meghan. It's like, this happened way before Harry knew Meghan existed.
Yeah. On top of that, anyone who wants to tarnish Prince Harry and Meghan only needs to sit back and watch.
Exactly.
So it doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
I think that this investigation needs to go through. I think that outside sources need to jump on this investigation.
Absolutely.
I think that I think the UN needs to be involved. I think everyone needs to be involved and get to the bottom of this, because if you are doing any sort of humanitarian work, that is serious. Those are people's lives.
And Harry and Meghan, after that letter, and assuming it's a true print of what was sent to you, after that letter being addressed to you by name and having apparently done nothing about it, I think the last word they should be ever able to use to describe themselves is humanitarian.
Unfortunately, the shameless Meghan Markle will put it first on her agenda, the next word she wants to use, because that's just who she is. She thinks that she can speak over the truth and just cut it off. But guess what? The truth is always the loudest thing in the room.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. I think with that, we're going to end it here. This episode was a lot more serious, but it just needed to be done.
Yep.
I'm so glad that everyone in the community, almost everyone, is talking about this, because it needs to be talked about. Unfortunately, we do have to censor ourselves and we can't go into any detail, but it's all over the internet.
Yep.
Go read it for yourselves. It's quite detailed. I will say it, obviously it's quite harrowing. So, but something needs to be done.
Yep, absolutely.
And all we can do, unlike Prince Harry, all we can do with our small platform is just raise the alarm. So I suppose we'll wait and see what he does now that this is getting more and more serious and the media is really picking it up and it is spreading like wildfire.
Good.
So that's it for this episode. They've had a bad week for charity, actually, because even King Charles's charity, the Prince's Trust, is connected to a scandal in, I believe, Pakistan, where an ambassador of his charity beat his own student up.
Oh, boy.
So there's that to contend with. Yeah, it's just not a good week in terms of royal charities or royal patrons and whatnot. So thanks for joining us for this impromptu episode. And we'll see you in the next one.
See you then.
Take care. Bye-bye.